So Hari Om everyone, and it's so nice to see you after a long time. And I hope you're all well and you're healthy and you're safe. And we'll go ahead and we'll start the class. Okay. All right. For this class, we're going to do a set of opening prayers, a different set of opening prayers. So I'm going to go ahead and share that with you so you can see. So the first one is our Om Sahana Bhavatu. It's the regular one, which we all know. So we'll chant that together. I've just included the swaras here. So those of you who've chanted Gayatri Mantra, who've taken Gayatri Mantra, then we know when to go down, when to go up. Okay? So we'll start with 3 Oms with this prayer, and then I'll scroll to the next prayers, which you'll all be familiar with. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Sarasvati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. This is a new prayer, the next one that we're going to learn from Mahabharata. So I will say it and then please repeat after me. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. We'll chant it together once. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. This prayer that we chanted is in prostrations to Narayana, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, and Nara, who is Arjuna, and who are the best of men. And also Devim Saraswati, to goddess Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Vyasa, to sage Veda Vyasa, who authored the Mahabharata. Tataha, therefore, Jayam Udirayet. We commence this study. So it is with Bhagavan's grace, Puja Gurudev's blessings, that we commence this study of Mahabharata. While we are going to start on this journey, I just want to say that we're very lucky. We're very lucky to learn something that Bhagavan Veda Vyasaji has written so many years ago. We're very lucky to actually have it in our hands, to hear the story, because it's a story of tremendous learning. And Gurudev says that the Bhagavad Gita is like a diamond. It's like a diamond, and it shines brightly where it shines brightly when it is put against the Mahabharata. So, for example, if you take the Gita and you take a diamond, and you see in the diamond, there's so many facets of it, right? So many ways that it reflects light, or so many ways that light hits it. But when can you see a diamond really clearly? Usually if you go to a jeweler, they usually will put the diamond in like a black velvet box or a blue velvet box or something like that, so the diamond can shine out. In the same way, this Bhagavad Gita shines out when we look at it through the background of Mahabharata. So we invoke everyone's grace, the blessings of our entire Guru Parampara, Bhagavan Shri Krishna, as we begin Mahabharata. Now, when we see the name Mahabharata, what exactly is the Mahabharata? Bharata means our great land, the land from where we all have our roots, from where we came from. Bharati iti Bharata. Bha means light. Rati means that which revels in light. So Bharata is the land where people revel in light, or in this case, light means knowledge. So why call it Mahabharata? Because it is the great history of the land of Bharat. You know, when we think of history, it usually pertains to a certain period of time. When people write it, it usually pertains to a period in time, a specific person, a specific place, or a context. But this kind of history, it pertains to so many people of so many different times and so many stories. It is a great history. It's not just one little context. It's a context of so many, many, many things. So therefore, Mahabharata. And as we said, it is an itihasa. Itihasa means it's a historical text. It's a historical text imbued with a lot of mysticism. So some people question, did the Mahabharata happen? Yes. But yes, and yes, there is a lot of mysticism and symbolism in it, but definitely it did happen. When was the Mahabharata written? There is a study from one of these astronomers, and he says that about 7,500 years ago, this Mahabharata was written. Based on the astronomical findings, it was written that long ago. And who wrote it, or how did it come to us? It came to us through Bhagavan Veda Vyasa. Bhagavan Veda Vyasa, as we know, is someone whom we can't even think about. We can't even grasp what kind of intellect he would have, because he is somebody who wrote, he wrote this Mahabharata. He wrote 18 Puranas. And mind you, the Mahabharata has 100,000 shlokas. Okay, so it has 100,000 shlokas. And it has over 1,000,000 words. And it has so many side stories intervened or intertwined in it. So somebody who writes 100,000 verses, not only that, but 18 Puranas, and one of the major Puranas we all study is Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam is 18,000 verses. He writes these texts. And not only that, but he compiled all of the Vedas together, because all of the Vedas were different branches and they were passed on through oration. So what he did was he said, we have to compile all of them, we have to classify them, put it into writing, and build a system where it can be transferred. This knowledge can be transferred, because otherwise it's going to be lost. So he was a great visionary. We can't even think of a visionary of that kind today. So in the Vedas, or what we call Shruti, he compiled it, classified it, passed it on, and the Veda, the cream of the Veda is Upanishads. In terms of Smriti, he is the one who brought out the Bhagavad Gita. In terms of Nyaya Shastra, he wrote the Brahma Sutra. In terms of Purana, he wrote 18 major Puranas, and there's also minor Puranas. So it is this mind that has brought this Mahabharata out to us. And mind you, this Mahabharata has gems inside. Some of us only know of the Bhagavad Gita. And we say in the middle of Madhye Mahabharatam is Bhagavad Gita. Yes, but in there is also Vidura Niti, advice of the sage Vidura. There is also Sanat Sujatiya, the advice to Dhritarashtra. There's also Yaksha Prashna, the dialogue between Yudhishthira and the Yaksha. There's also Vishnu Sahasranama, which is these 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu that many of us chant. There is Bhagavad Gita, and on top of that, after the war, Arjuna says, can you kind of repeat this Gita to me? Can you kind of give it to me again? And Lord Krishna says, I cannot give it to you the same way, but I will give you Anu Gita. So there's also Anu Gita. So in this Mahabharata, you imagine there is all of these things. There's all of these components. So it is a gem, and it is also known as the fifth Veda. So it is a very integral part of our culture. Although some people say, don't keep Mahabharata at home and, you'll fight and everything. There is so much of a deeper meaning in Mahabharata than war. And there's also the saying, which all of you know and all of you have heard, that whatever is in the world is in Mahabharata. Any situation, any scenario that you can think of in the world is there in the Mahabharata. And if it's not there in the Mahabharata, then it's not there in the world. Everything is in the Mahabharata. Now, how did Bhagavan Vedavyasa bring this out? And why did he bring this out? You see, he brought this out because he said the Upanishads are too deep. They're way too deep. If we just go directly to Upanishads, very few of us will survive. Very few of us will survive. Very few of us will get the point. It won't come to our level. And when you think about the Upanishads, look at the student of the Upanishads. Somebody who's ready to know about Brahman. Someone who's ready for Brahma Jnana. And they want to know, what is the world made of? What is that knowing which everything is known? They have such deep questions. Our questions in life are, how do I live today? How do I just live my daily life? How do I just get peace of mind? These are our questions. And Bhagavan Vedavyasa knew that there are different types of students who have to be raised to that level. And it will take some time, it will take some teaching, but they will be eventually raised to that level. And so Bhagavan Vedavyasa said, there is this history that I can write about. This is Mahabharata. So why not bring this out to the common person? Bring it out to the common person because this is where they're at. Upanishads are, they're given by the river Ganga. They're given in the forest and in this quiet solitude, solitary place. This Mahabharata is in a battlefield. It's in Kurukshetra. And he says, let me write this that can meet the common person's mind and raise them to the highest level. And so he prays to Brahmaji. And he says, Brahmaji, I want to write this Mahabharata, but when I dictate it, I need somebody to scribe it, someone to write it down, because otherwise it will be too much. And so Brahmaji says, you invoke Sri Ganesha. Invoke Lord Ganesha and let him come and be your scribe. And so Bhagavan Vedavyasa prayed to Lord Ganesha. And Lord Ganesha himself came down. Himself came down and said, now, Vedavyasa, I can write this Mahabharata, but you have to keep dictating it continuously, non-stop. Otherwise, I will not write it down. And so Bhagavan Vedavyasa said, now what to do with this scribe? Okay. Then he said, Bhagavan Ganesha, I agree, but you can only write if you understand the verse. If you don't understand, you have to think about it, then only write. And Lord Ganesha said, okay, agreed. And so he didn't have a pen, and he broke his tusk and he started writing this Mahabharata. And so that is why he's called Ekadanta. That one single tusk Ganapati Ekadanta. Now, so it is said in the Bhagavad Gita and even in the Mahabharata, there are these verses which we won't understand, because whenever Bhagavan Vedavyasa wanted to take a pause, he would just give a very complicated verse, and Lord Ganesha had to wait and wait and wait and think about it. So there are some of those verses which are so complex, which perhaps maybe we'll never get to. We can try, but Lord Ganesha and Bhagavan Vedavyasa, both of them will know the meaning. So we went into what is the Mahabharata, and we went into when was it written, and how it was written, and why we are studying it, because it brings out the glory, the grace, the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita. And where was it written? So there is now in Badrinath, there is Vyasa Guha, and there's even Ganesha Guha. So after this Mahabharata, Vedavyasa ji and Ganesh ji, they write everything down. The Mahabharata is also called Jaya. It's also called Jaya, which means victory. It is the story of one who is victorious. What is the key message of Mahabharata? The key message of Mahabharata is very simple. Yataha Krishna tato dharma. Yato dharma tato jayaha. What does that mean? Wherever there is Krishna, Yatah Krishna, wherever there is Krishna, tato dharma, there is dharma. And yato dharma, wherever there is dharma, tato jayaha, there is victory. So wherever there is Lord Krishna, there is dharma. Wherever there is dharma, there is victory. That's the message of Mahabharata. And what is this victory? This victory is nothing but moksha. The Mahabharata explores the four purusharthas, the four goals: dharma, artha, wealth, kama, desire, and moksha, liberation. So if we want to get liberation, attain liberation, the first step is dharma. So in this context, I will just touch upon the word dharma, and it will come many, many, many times in the Bhagavad Gita. It will also come in Mahabharata. And now the Mahabharata, now sometimes people say, why did he do that? Why did she do that? They get so annoyed at the characters. And I was teaching in summer camp this year to the children, and they had so many questions about why the characters behave the way they behaved. When we look at the Mahabharata, just look at it as it is. None of the characters are perfect, except Lord Krishna. So every character has some positivity, every character has a flaw, every character has a dilemma. Just like you and me, they had these dilemmas, real life dilemmas. Things that you and I are going through, they went through 7,500 years ago. But we will see that those who attempted to stay on the path of dharma, they were victorious in the end. So what is meant by this word dharma? Dharma means many, many things. So let's just explore it a little bit. Comes from the root word dhr. Dhr means to hold. Dharayati iti dharma. That which supports, that which holds. In other words, that which makes a thing what it is dharma. That which makes a thing what it is dharma. So if you take everything away, what makes it what it is? That is dharma. So for you and me, what is our dharma? Our dharma, our supreme dharma is Sat Chit Ananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. Our supreme dharma is Brahman, because without consciousness, we cannot be. We can be without our bodies. We see that in deep sleep. We can be without our minds. We see that again in deep sleep. And even without our egos. But we can never be without consciousness. Never. And that means that consciousness is my dharma. Because without it, I can't be. And so the first meaning of dharma is Atma, the self. The self is dharma. That is my supreme dharma. That is what I'm here to do. Many times people wonder, why are we attending all of these satsangs, and why are we going to all of these classes, and why are we doing all of this? It's because we forget. We forget that our goal in life, our supreme dharma in life, is to realize the self. It's not to eat like pani puri on the streets or want to go out and party with our friends and go here and there and travel the world. That's not dharma. We're here to seek the truth. That's why we're here. We're not here for anything else. Everything else is like, on the way. By chance it happened. But my goal, or our goal, is to realize the truth. And that is supreme dharma. But on the way there, on the way to realize the truth, we also have what we call our daily dharma, which means our daily duties, which we have to perform. Now, these daily duties, they come in 4 different categories. And as I said, I'll just touch upon it because it will come in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 4, chapter 18, it will come. And those of us who just studied chapter 18, it was there. So first is my Visheshana Dharma. Visheshana Dharma means, what is my unique Dharma? What is unique to me? Well, that depends on my Varna That depends on my ashrama. Varna means the texture of my mind. So it depends on the texture of my mind. Depending on that, then my dharma, my actual work is determined, my work or my daily activity. So if my temperament is primarily sattvika, then Brahmana, I must do Brahmana karma, which means I must get into teaching, envisioning, guiding, advising. I must get into that kind of field to express myself because I have these tendencies and I need to express them. If one's temperament is predominantly rajasic, followed by sattvic and then tamasic, then one must engage in what we call kshatriya dharma. Then I must be an administrator. I must lead. I must be in a position of power because that will make me express my abilities best. If one has primarily rajasic, then tamasic, then sattvic, then one should engage in vaishya karma. Then I'm into gathering resources, collecting wealth, raising funds, doing all kinds of things to benefit society. And if one is primarily tamasic, and then tamasic in their guna or temperament, then they have what is called shudra dharma, where they're not ready to lead or to actually take a step for put themselves in the front line, but they'll support, and they'll support in many ways. They'll support in many ways, many menial tasks they can do, and they will do whatever they can to contribute. So it's not that one is better than the other. It's just that at that stage of life, that's where our temperament is. That's where we should express ourselves in order for our vasanas to be exhausted. So that is one element, which if we kind of understand well now, then in the Mahabharata, then we won't question too many things so much, because many times they try to adhere to dharma. Then we have what is called ashrama, and this you all know, that brahmacharya, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa, right? These 4 ashramas we have. So let's say I'm a kshatriya, or I have this, predominant rajasic quality, and I'm a warrior or administrator. That doesn't mean I have to be like that my whole entire life. No, there's a stage in my life where I study, brahmacharya. There's a stage of my life where I marry if I choose to, grahastha. And then there's a stage of my life where I retire, vanaprastha. So it's not that you go on doing the same thing again and again and again. There's a stage where we also have to quieten down because we must prepare for sannyasa. So according to my varna, according to my ashrama, these dharmas are prescribed. They're given to us. So don't say, so some people say, oh, why do I have to do this? Oh, why do I have to do that? Well, look at the temperament of our mind. That's it. Look at the temperament of our mind. Look at the stage that we're in life. That's why we're doing the kind of action we're doing. That's why it's being given to us. So based on our dharma, these actions count. Then there's something called asadharana dharma, which means it's a unique dharma. Unique dharma means it's based on what special skills I have. If I have special skills in something, then I must do that dharma. For example, in a house or in a home, everyone has special skills. One may have very special skills in technology. They would know how to work the computer and this and that, and they would know how to work the phone. So whoever's technologically savvy, they should help people who are not technologically savvy, because that's their dharma. They have that quality, they must share it. Those who are very good with cooking, very good with with that, then they must do that and they must share that dharma. Those who are very good in finance, then they must do that and share that dharma. So in addition to all of this, if I have a special skill and it's needed, then I have a dharma to share it. I can't keep quiet because then society doesn't benefit, right? So if we ask somebody who can sing, the ones who can sing, it's their dharma to sing. That is called asadharana dharma. Next is what we have, apat dharma. Now this apat dharma, it's quite fascinating, because this apat dharma says at one point in time, what is adharma can become dharma. So it says at one point in time, what is adharma can become dharma. For example, let's say there is a war and there are soldiers and they're being injured and there are doctors there. Now, usually before you perform any surgery, you have to administer anesthesia for certain types of surgery. But in the event you're in a war and there's no anesthesia, you just perform the surgery, you just do it. Although it is, by the books, it is adharma. At that point in time, when there's an emergency, it becomes dharma. A simple example, which we can all understand, is that when we're in the highway and when a cop is speeding, it's not adharma, it is dharma. It's what we call apat dharma, because the cop is trying to catch someone. So he has to speed. He has to do what we think is adharma to do that dharma so that he can catch somebody. But when you and I speed because we're late for this social gathering, that is not apat dharma, okay? So it has to be that person is in a certain position and their intention is very pure, then only you call that apat dharma. For us, it will be adharma only, okay? So there is this thing also called apat dharma. Finally, there's this thing called samanya dharma. And samanya dharma means these values to live by. Dharma also means these eternal values. Like actually we say that our religion is Hinduism. Actually, it's sanatana dharma, which means eternal values which we live by. And this we will see in Manusmriti, it highlights 10 dharmas. So in Manusmriti, it says, there's dhriti, kshama, damaha, asteyam, shaucham, indriya nigraha, dhiraha, vidya, satyam, akrodaha, like that. So a lot of these terms you will know. They're fortitude, truthfulness, non-violence, control of mind and senses, like that. Our basic values in life are also called dharma. It's called samanya dharma. Means so for everyone, this is dharma. So very often in sanatana dharma, in our Hindu culture, we do not have such a thing that this kind of thing is prescribed for everybody. We do not have one rule fits all. Because just like one medicine is not good for all kinds of patients, each patient needs a different medicine. The same way, each person has a different dharma, depending on their varna, the quality of their mind, depending on their ashrama, the stage of their life, depending on their asadharana dharma, what their unique abilities are, depending on emergency crisis, and the samanya dharma, the qualities that is universal. Now, so we know these dharmas. Now, sometimes we might think this is too much information. Like, how am I supposed to know all of this, right? How am I supposed to know all of this? It's too much. Can you give it to me in a capsule form so that I at least do my daily dharma every day? So very simply put, if you want it in a capsule form, it is, and I share this with you also, and I tell the kids, it is RT, RP, RT. Means it is just doing the right thing at the right place at the right time. That much is dharma. If I'm confused, I don't know, these three you take. Right thing, right place, right time. Now, I'll give you an example in our context where you see how this plays. Right thing to do is to do our daily sadhana. Right thing, definitely. Now, right place to do our daily sadhana is to do it in our altar. In front of our altar, we do our daily sadhana. Right time is to do it in the morning before anybody wakes up. Because otherwise we'll get disturbed and we think, okay, what's happening there? Now, sometimes we can do the right thing. We can do our daily sadhana. And we can do it in front of our altar also, right place. But sometimes it's the wrong time. Sometimes we are doing our daily sadhana, not at Brahma Muhurta. Not it's from 4 to like 7. I'm extending it to 7. 4 to 6 should be. Not at that time, but we do it at 9 o'clock. Now, if we do our daily sadhana at 9 o'clock, we'll say, yeah, I'm praying to God. What prayer will be there? By 9 o'clock, your mind is in what you have to do today. And so many people will be calling and texting, and this one will be looking for you, that one will be looking for you. Everybody will be wondering where you are, what you're doing. Your mind will not be on Shiva or Ganesha, it will be on something else. So that, even if we think it's the right thing to do, it is adharma. Because it must be done in the right time. Not only the right thing, at the right place, at the right time. Now I'll give you another example. Okay, but I'll do it at the right time. Okay, you do it at the right time. So, for example, what happens? Right thing is to come to satsanga. Oh, all of us are in satsanga. Very nice. It's the right thing to do. And right time also, we come on time also. 5 minutes early, we come also. But then what happens? Wrong place. The video is off because I'm walking somewhere doing my grocery, getting some tomatoes, potatoes, and I'm listening to Mahabharata. Oh, that is adharma. That is adharma. I mean, I'm glad you're listening specifically, but that's also adharma because it must be, it's something sacred. You know, it's something sacred that should be listened to single-pointedly as possible. And that is called dharma. So you see, sometimes seemingly we do the right thing. Seemingly. But I tell you, to do the right thing at the right place at the right time is a very difficult task. And to be on that path, that is called dharma. So that is a little cue into dharma. Now we have the whole background of Mahabharata. Now we have what is the message of Mahabharata, that wherever there is Lord Krishna, wherever we are connected to the divine, there is dharma. Wherever there is dharma, there is moksha, there is victory. We will now go into the story of Mahabharata. So where does it start? Now, I have to tell you that Mahabharata is a story and so many stories in between. So I'm going to keep it very succinct and just concentrate on what we need to know, because otherwise it could go on and on and on. Okay? And as I told you, the 2 books that you can refer to, if you like, if you're an avid reader, Kamala Subramaniam, I had sent this in the email. So that is one book that you can refer to. It's 800 something pages, but it's a fun read. But if you're like, oh my God, that's too much, it's okay. Half of it is the Raja Gopalachariji's Mahabharata, which you can also read. It's nice for you to read, to follow along, so you can also enjoy and at least we'll remember. So how it starts is Parikshit. Parikshit. Now this Parikshit is who? This Parikshit is Arjuna's grandson. Arjuna's son is Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu's son is Parikshit. There will be many names. There will be many connections. But don't worry. We have Zoom. I have charts. It'll be easy. Okay? So, Parikshit. Parikshit was once in the forest. And he was in the forest and he was feeling very, very thirsty. And he saw this sage who was meditating, was very quietly meditating. The sage was quietly meditating. Parikshit wanted water and tried to ask him for water because he was so thirsty. And what happened was the sage was deep in meditation. He didn't hear. So Parikshit got so mad that he took a skin of a snake and he put it around this sage and he left. Now, the son of this sage, he came to see what happened to his father and he cursed whoever did it. He said, whoever does this will have 7 days to live. So first lesson, don't mess with a Brahmana because their words are satya. How when you meet a sage, when you meet a child of a sage, their words come true. Their words have power. So his words had power. And when his father woke up from his meditation, he said, what happened? And his son told him, this is what I did. His father said, why did you do it? And the son couldn't take back the curse. So now the message was conveyed to Parikshit, that Parikshit, you have 7 days to live. Now this Parikshit, imagine he's a king. He's a king and he's of this dynasty. We call it Kuru dynasty. There's no ordinary king. 7 days to live. Now, if you and I had 7 days to live, what would we do? We probably have a bucket list, right? I want to go here, I want to go there, all the foods I want to eat, all the people I want to meet, all the places I want to go, all the things I want to enjoy for the last time. Let me just enjoy these. We would have a bucket list that this is what I want to do for the 7 days of my life. Think of how Parikshit was. He said, I want to know about God. I want to know how to gain liberation. If I'm going to die, then I want to know how to be liberated here and now. And the way Parikshit was to die was this snake called Takshaka was going to bite him in 7 days. And so this Parikshit, he learned Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is how the story of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a beautiful Purana, starts. Now, are we going to go into that story? No. But after he hears this Srimad Bhagavatam, he gets liberated even before the Takshaka snake bites him. And on the 7th day, the snake bit him and he left his body. What happens then? He has a son, Janamejaya. This Janamejaya is so upset at all the snakes in the world. He's so upset at all the snakes in the world because this snake bit his father. And so he says, I'm going to have a Sarpa Yagna. Now, before, they would have all kinds of yagnas, these kings and these princes. So he wanted to have a Sarpa Yagna, but a very unique kind. He says, where all the snakes are going to be burnt. He says, I want you to bring all the snakes. I want you to burn all of these snakes because it is a snake that killed my father. Now, of course, he lost his senses, right? Now, all of the snakes were being offered in this yagna. And finally, this Takshaka was going to be offered. And this Takshaka sought protection from Indra Devata and said, you please save me from this. And so they sent this Brahmana, Astika, to the yagna. Now, again, I'm telling you, Brahmanas are very dangerous because when they ask, you have to give. That's the law. That's just the law. So what they say, it comes true. When they ask, you have to give. That's just the way it is. They have that kind of position in society. And so he says, Janamejaya says, what can I do for you? Astika says, stop this yagna. And just about when the Takshaka was going to be burned, that he said, stop this yagna. And so this Janamejaya had to stop this yagna. He had to just stop it. And so he was very, very upset. He was very upset because he was so disturbed by his father's death. And so, again, what's so beautiful in our tradition, whenever something happens disturbing in our life, like death or some sorrow or some disease, the tradition is to read a katha. You read a story, you chant Vishnu Sahasranama, you study Bhagavad Gita. The tradition is whenever you are in sorrow, hold on to scriptures because they can take you out of any kind of sorrow. Imagine what Parikshit's sorrow was. 7 days he has to live. He learns Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmejaya's sorrow was my father died. So what is the remedy for him? Vaishampayana said the Mahabharata to Janamejaya. This was his remedy. Vaishampayana is a disciple of Vedavyasa. And this is how the Mahabharata came to be told. Now you must be questioning, what is this Sarpa Yagna and why did he have to do this Sarpa Yagna? See, there are deeper significances to the stories as we see them. Sarpa, or the snakes in this context, means all the different kind of vrittis or thoughts that we have. This Janamejaya was so angry that he got angry at all the snakes. He released his anger at all the snakes. And so he ordered for all the snakes to be burned. When we also get angry, what happens is we get angry at everybody. Whether they are good, they are bad, or whatever they are, that single anger we have, we give it to everybody. It doesn't matter if they're good or not. And so here he was trying to burn all of the vrittis, both the negative and positive. And that is why this astika means the believer, the one who believes in the Vedas, says, stop this yagna because negativity should be burnt, not positivity, only negativity should be burnt. And they stop this yagna to show that point. And therefore, the yagna was stopped and this Mahabharata was narrated. So how does it start now? So now this is how Mahabharata came to be told. Where does it start? This Mahabharata starts with a love story. It starts with a love story of this king, Shantanu. This king, Shantanu, was a very noble king. And he was the king of Hastinapura. And you'll notice all of these places that we are saying in the Mahabharata are still there today. He was the king of Hastinapura. One day, he was roaming by the banks of Ganga. And as he was roaming by the banks of Ganga, he saw a beautiful lady. And this beautiful lady was none other than Ganga Devi herself personified. He saw Ganga Devi and he said, I want to marry you. Finished. Very fast. Then and there they saw each other and they want to get married. Not like now all the kids and all the teenagers, all these young kids, too many problems they have about getting married. It's very hard for them. This back in the day, it was very easy. Shantanu saw Ganga Devi. He was mesmerized and he said, I want to marry you. We can take that as a good thing, we can take it as a bad thing, but it is what it is. So Ganga Devi, and she said to Shantanu, now she's very, very smart, she says, only if you adhere to my conditions. Okay, what are your conditions? You must not ask me any questions. Don't ask me why I do what I do. I'll just do. I'll don't you mind your own, business. I don't ask me why I do what I do, and we'll get married. So, Shantanu, you know the trick. Once you get married, best is one keeps quiet, one talks. That's just the way it works. Both talks, if both of you talk, it doesn't work. Both of you keep quiet, doesn't work. There's always one who will talk, one will keep quiet. And the roles change, huh? Roles change every now and then. So Shantanu was the one who kept quiet. And Ganga Mata, she did what she did. But what did she do? So, Shantanu, after some time, was so happy. He was so happy because first son was born. And for a king, that is a great thing because that's a great thing because there is somebody to take up the throne. And so he was so overjoyed. But then when he went to the room to see where is this son, he couldn't find Ganga Devi and the son. And by the time he went or tried to follow her, he saw Ganga Devi put the child in the river. And he was just aghast and he said, what is going on? Why is she doing this? But he remembered he's not supposed to ask. Otherwise, he will lose her. She will go away. So he doesn't ask. The next son that was born, again, Shantanu was overjoyed. Ganga Devi took the child, did the same thing. And he said, I cannot ask. If I ask, I will lose her. And he doesn't ask. She does this 7 times. 7 times. 7 sons were born. And she put them in the river. She put them in the river. The 8th son, Shantanu couldn't take it. He couldn't take it. He said to her, stop. Just stop right there. Why are you doing this? And she said, now that you told me to stop, I have to leave. He said, but why are you doing this? She tells Shantanu, see, you were a king before, and you were a king before, and you and I met in Indra's court. Now in Indra's court, something happened. There was some conversation going on, but you looked at me with very passionate eyes, and I looked at you with very passionate eyes. That was not the right thing to do at that time. And because of that, we were cursed to come to earth. And we were cursed to come to earth, and you felt for me, I felt for you, and that is why we got married. These 7 children, 8, the 8th one, they were children. They were these boys who were trying to steal this cow of sage Vasishta. They were trying to steal this cow of sage Vasishta. He had a wish-fulfilling cow. They wanted to steal it. And the 8th one was the mastermind of all. The 7th one, they were helping, but there was one mastermind, and it was the 8th one. There's always, whenever you conspire to do something, there's always those people who are, who help you, but there's one mastermind. So this 8th one was the mastermind. And so sage Vasishta, he cursed them. He cursed them that you will be born on earth. And for them, they were in another realm. And to be born on earth was such a pain for them. And so, but the curse was reduced that you will only be there towards the beginning. And so they prayed to Mother Ganga. They said, you please be our mother and you release us from this curse that we have. And so she said, yeah, the 7th one, the 7 sons I can release. As soon as you're born, I will release you from your curse. But the 8th one, he cannot be released because he's the one who was the mastermind. He has to live through and through. And so she explained to Shantanu that these 7 ones were cursed. And by me putting them in the water, I was actually releasing them from their curse. But this eighth one, he has to stay. He has to stay for a long time. And he will be your son. But for now, I will take him. I will take him because I have to train him. Mother Ganga says, I'm going to take him because I have to train him. Once he's well trained, I'll give him back to you. And Mother Ganga and the eighth son disappear. And Shantanu is left all alone. Now from this story, such a powerful thing we can see. Most of the time, you and I judge. We're very quick to judge. We're very quick to judge when somebody does something. That act of Mother Ganga putting the children in the river, it might seem like murder. Like, what is she doing? You know, when you look at it, she's such a cruel person. How can she do that? But later on, when she tells you the whole story, you know, I'm actually releasing them from a curse. When they were cursed because they did all this natak, they tried to, you know, steal a cow, and that's why this happened. So from that story, simple thing we can learn. Instead of judging people's, what they do and why they do it, and this is good and this is bad, we should think that maybe there's a backstory. Maybe there's a backstory, and maybe there's a reason why they're going through all of those things in their life. There's a reason why they're suffering. And we don't know the backstory. We're not Mother Ganga, who knew the backstory. We're not a divine being. I tell you, if you and I remembered all the mistakes that we have done and all the things we have to go through to pay for those mistakes, we won't even want to live. We will be like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go through this. I'm going to have to go through that. I'm going to have to go through this. So many times people ask, why don't we remember our past lives? If we remembered, we won't be able to live our present life, because we will realize how much we have to go through. So that incident, which seemed so negative to Shantanu, was actually something positive that Mother Ganga was trying to do. So Mother Ganga, she took this son. She took this son for 16 years. And for 16 years, he was educated and nursed and brought up by Mother Ganga. Not only that, but he learned from Vasishta, the Vedas, the Vedangas. He learned from Brihaspati, political science. He learned archery from Parashurama. He was a well-rounded prince who learned everything. 16 years later, when Shantanu was roaming about the banks of the Ganga, he sees this young boy who was so dexterous, who was shooting arrows, who appeared so princely, so magnificent. He just stared at him. And at that time, Mother Ganga appeared and she said, this is your son. He's well trained. He's ready. Take him. He is of royalty. And Mother Ganga left. And King Shantanu went home with his son. That son's name is Devavrata, or also known as Gangeya. Now, what happens after that? What happens to Gangeya? What happens to Devavrata? How does he grow up? That we will see in the next class. Okay? Om. 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 Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.